I firmly believe, and I don't give a fuck if anything thinks me crazy, but I don't think any of our storms that we've had in the last really 2 decades are natural. I think it's all geoengineered.
How do you perceive God? Like, if someone were to ask you right now, and so someone had no understanding of who God is, and they have so many questions, why does God allow all of the torment that's going on in this life, all of the pain, all of the suffering, all of the war? Why doesn't he intercede?
Thinking that you know all will lead you into finding people that have the solutions for what you're looking for. That's why we're collective. That's why we are a human race. That's why we are here together.
God loves absolutely everyone here on this planet.
Absolutely.
I don't care what you do. He still loves you. He created you.
No matter your belief system, no matter how you view him or her or it or the universe, whatever the word is. However you want to perceive the essence of our creation, love.
He is the perfect embodiment of love.
Yes.
He loves you. He doesn't care what you did. He doesn't care how many mistakes you've made. We're all here to learn, and he still loves you at the end of it.
We're back.
Yeah, we're back, I guess.
Spend some time.
Welcome back to the Prodigal Sons podcast. I'm Dylan,
Bryan,
and it's been some time that we last filmed, and I'm only saying that really because in my head I always kind of think like, brother, we don't have millions of followers. Like, people aren't following us and like questioning like where we are. But like, I've actually had a few experiences where people that are close to me have asked like when we plan on filming again, because they're actually anticipating it. And I actually have a story to tell. But like, before I even get into that, when people like tell me those things or ask me those things, it actually makes me realize, even if we have a small audience, how much of an impact it could potentially make on someone.
Right.
So hi.
Hello again.
Before we started filming, we were just talking about it. I think the last time we filmed was in the beginning of August or the end of July, one of those.
I don't even know. Yeah, that makes sense, because that's when I moved. I think I moved, August 12th or something like that, and it was prior to that. Yeah, so it had to be beginning of August is when the last time.
I believe so.
Yeah, that would make sense. Yeah.
Yeah, life just be lifing.
Yeah.
Life kind of just happens.
Yeah. This is how I actually function too. Like, especially like on social media and such like that. Like, I'll be posting and doing stuff pretty frequently, and then all of a sudden I'll just back out. Yeah. Be like, okay.
Yeah.
And it's, I don't know. I very much ebb and flow with what's being presented. So if the momentum is going one way, I follow the momentum. And if that momentum shifts and it starts carrying myself the other way, I don't try forcing the momentum back into the position that it was once in. Yeah. I follow wherever it's being brought to me. And then within that momentum, you're going to have pulls and tensions trying to take you in other directions. Yep. And it's being able to recognize what these pulls and these tensions are. So when we can be in more of this awareness state and to observe what is taking place in and around ourselves, is how we're able to find the peace that we're supposed to be inside of. Where if we are in this blinded state and this deaf state of the unseen, we're not going to be able to really be aware of what's trying to be presented to us in all of the moments of life. Yeah. And that's where, like, doing it for X amount of weeks that we were doing it, and now we're on a break for 8 weeks. Who gives a fuck? I mean, yes, like, beautiful that we do impact people, and that the anticipation is waiting for us to come back and speak again. But this is also where you have to be learning to be non-codependent. Yeah. So, not to say those individuals are codependent, because I'm not saying that at all, but us being able to take breaks and others being able to accept that this break has taken place allows for someone not to be codependent upon something. And I think codependency is a very heavy thing that's taking place within our society on many, 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 many different levels. And people don't even realize that they're being codependent to a situation. Yeah. And something like this could help bring awareness to be like, oh shit, I was being codependent on listening to this, where you shouldn't be codependent on that. You should be realizing where your codependencies are, so that you can be that sovereign being that we're meant to be always and forever, no matter where we are on this planet.
Yeah, I think life really just happens, and I think we're also human, right? Like, and again, I don't mean to go in some spiel as if like millions of people or thousands of people are like asking where we've gone.
Mm-hmm.
But life kind of just happens, and I think the best part about going on a little hiatus is coming back with more stories to tell.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as much as we were filming and as consistent we were with filming, it never felt like there were things that we were running out to speak about.
Mm-hmm.
But some of the things that we do speak about, maybe to an audience, could feel as if it's repetitive. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I can see
Because
that.
we typically, I mean, the whole foundation of this podcast is God.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And of course, there's so many different directions that you could kind of like go into when it comes to speaking about him because he's everything. But maybe some people can get lost in that. Right. So like I think sometimes taking a hiatus and coming back and kind of just like, just experiencing life, you have more stories to come back with, and you could also reflect and analyze how God has played a part in those experiences. So
isn't that a part of the prodigal son?
and
Like that is what that
absolutely,
is. It's gaining knowledge, and how do you gain knowledge? You have to keep on moving. You have to keep on doing different things. So this hiatus is a part of the prodigal son journey.
Absolutely.
It's a part of it. It's knowing that, like, even though we separated and we were not filming, we always kind of knew in the backside of our heads like it was going to happen again. It wasn't like, nah, fuck it, that's the end of that. No, it was just like, no, we knew we were going to get back into it. It was when God presented the alignments to take place, and it's just following the path of what God is presenting to us in all of the instances of life, and no matter what the courses are. It's just it's acceptance. It's really what it comes down to. It's just accepting whatever the path that God is presenting to us.
Absolutely. It's also funny you say the prodigal son, which is our name, but excuse me, within the past couple of months, and I think I've had this discussion with you, I've been feeling disconnected from God, and I think that's the worst feeling. I think the worst feeling is when you grow so close and you start to learn him and understand him and develop this relationship with him, and then you go through this period where you lose sight of that and you lose that connection. And I think I've been in this period or in this space of that time of us not filming, really trying to discover who I am and navigate my way through life.
Yeah. And that's so I've had many experiences, and I still go through the distance. It's also like the distance of your higher self and also God. They run similar parallels to each other, our higher selves and God, because it's something that we're trying to reach towards. So there's times, and I just recently came out of one too, where I felt this disconnection from my higher self, where it feels so uncomfortable on the inside that you don't know why something is taking place. And it's just like, will I ever attain it again? Will I ever feel that sensation again of either God or our higher selves? Like, will I embody that pureness, that bliss, that openness that we know we have felt before?
Yeah.
And it's a craving, right? Like we have these cravings in food, right? Like there's times that we want certain foods and we're just craving it. It's like, fuck, I want to just indulge inside of that taste.
Yeah.
That's the same thing of indulging with God. So we have these craving sensations of, fuck, I want to be with God. Damn, I want to be connected to my higher self. But there's reasons why we're being disconnected. And I think it's to uncover, can we keep ourselves stable even in the disconnection? Can we keep ourselves in this foundational state of still acting pure, still acting in this innocence, and still acting out of a service to others and ourselves, even though we're not fully connected to where we know we can be.
Yeah.
So then when we do get reconnected again to our higher selves and God, it's almost like we revamped our batteries, we revamped ourselves, and we took this next level so that when we do feel that disconnection again, it's not going to be as this, you know what I mean? It's not going to be this like, why? It's going to be like, oh, I know it's coming again. Like, I know I'm going to get reconnected again. So the more times that we have that in and out sensation, the less of a despair we have. It's a less of a disconnected sensation, because we know that we will get reconnected again and will be leveled up when we do get reconnected again.
Yeah. I think sometimes like explaining God to people is quite difficult. Those who maybe don't have a relationship with God, and those who are curious and who question God's existence. And that's something that I've also been struggling with, because it's like, when you don't surround yourself around people who are also faith driven, it's very hard to kind of like stay in that space of just believing in something that you can't see, right? So like I've had plenty of conversations with certain people, or just surrounding myself around people that maybe don't know God, and you kind of see yourself slowly fall back into that space of not knowing who God actually is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so funny, like how infectious that, what's the scripture? It's bad company corrupts good character,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like the
Mm-hmm.
people, birds of a feather flock together. So the people
Mm-hmm.
that you surround yourself with
Mm-hmm.
is pretty much an indication of who someone is,
Mm-hmm.
right? You can look at somebody and perceive someone in a way, and that's not always true. Right, but you could look at somebody's friend group and perceive them in a way that their friends present themselves. And I feel like lately it's like when someone is questioning my faith and asking, to prove God's existence, it's hard for me to explain because there's also things that I don't know.
Right.
And I think that's the most frustrating part. It's like, how do you explain it in a way that would make sense and in a way in which you don't sound crazy? That's the toughest.
Yes, I think it's so. What's wrong in saying I don't know? There's nothing wrong in it. There's nothing wrong in being like, I don't have the words to explain the sensation of God right now. That doesn't mean the next day or the following day that you have those words come to you.
Mm.
It's giving yourself, once again, space to be able to accumulate what needs to be said. So being able to respond to that person, be like, hey, in the moment, I don't know how I want to explain God to you.
Mm.
But that doesn't mean that you can't step away, go pray to God and be like, hey, can you please like bring me the insight that's needed to be able to bring forth who you are to this person? And then who's not to say like within that moment, you then receive.
Absolutely.
But I think it's experiences, right? Like I think how we come in contact with God is through our own experiences.
Yeah.
So it's so independently unique from person to person, which is why God is so beautiful. It's because it's so unique.
Yeah.
So even though those people are not recognizing that God was with them in the good, the bad, the beautiful, everything, they're not seeing it. But when we reflect, which is I think a big major portion of what people are not using in recognizing God is reflection, so that when you do reflect back upon your experiences, you're able to see God in all of it.
Mm.
But if you're not trying to reflect upon and seeing the maneuvers that were being done within each experience, you're not going to see him in his ways because you're blind. You're not actually looking for something that's actually there.
Absolutely.
So I feel like the best way to explain it is just like reflect.
Mm.
Reflect and see like how, like what you were just saying before about the personal trainer that you were seeing, and he planted a seed in the space that we're inside of right now. It's like, oh, you need to bring a massage therapist in. Hello. And then it then happened.
Mm.
That's a point, like a part of that reflection is how did these things line up?
Yeah.
Like, why did that person say something to Don to say, like, hey, you need to bring a massage therapist in? And then X time later, then a massage therapist then came into the space.
Absolutely.
That is God. That's God working through that personal trainer, the dude, to then speak to Don, to then bring somebody in, massage therapist, into the space.
Yeah.
So it's seeing the maneuvers and the alignments and how things unfold. And as they unfold, you're able to pick up on how God's hand was inside of each of those experiences, but it comes forth with reflection.
Yeah.
And if you don't want to reflect on your past, no matter if it's good or bad,
yeah,
it's and then that's still a state of mind too. Your state of mind of seeing your past as bad is your choice.
Yeah.
That's not God trying to show you it's bad. That's you deciding that it's bad. You have the ability to see your experiences and pull out the good, to then discard the bad. And then now you're only seeing that experiences as good.
Mm.
Because who's to say that your shit experience didn't lead into something that was absolutely magnificent the next day, or whenever the time frame was, but it had from an altercation of bad, which then led to good.
Yeah.
So it's on you to reflect upon the state of mind that you want to see these experiences in, but God was in that interplay of it all.
Yeah. So for this particular podcast, I wanna have like segments or sections in which we speak about specific things,
mm-hmm.
and then transition into something or another topic.
Okay.
Before I even get to that point, though, I think this is beautiful, and I think I need to share it. And this is in regards to our podcast. So I've actually had a few people, one of which, a friend of mine, I haven't spoken to for months, and he texted me out of the blue, and he was just like, "Listen, man, I actually just thought about you the other day, and I realized, or I remembered that you told me that you had a podcast." So I turned it on and I watched the entirety of the first episode, and he told me how emotional he got, but he also told me like how much he could relate to
The pains.
the pains and the experiences that I've experienced, you've experienced, because he just went through something similar in regards to a breakup, and in regards to finding God in the way that he did, and he just sent that out of the blue, and I just thought that was so touching. And there was another person that's in my life that didn't watch the long form content, but that ended up watching the clips, all of the clips that we shared on Instagram. And she told me that she started tearing up and how impactful some of our words are. And I just thought that needed to be shared because, first and foremost, it's not me. I don't think it's you.
Nope.
It's God speaking through us. And it's honestly just being us, being our like full authentic self, and just allowing ourselves to be seen by everyone. And I think you could pick up on someone being authentic or inauthentic. And sometimes you have to hang yourself up to dry so other people can view you from whether it's from a close distance or a far distance, and say to themselves, you know what, like I can relate to that, or I can't. And if it's not for you, it's not for you. But if it is, you have to take that initial step. You have to take that risk. You have to take that leap of faith. And if you don't, you're never going to know, because most people are afraid to open up, right? All it takes is one person to be bold and courageous enough to open up about their experience. And once that person does, a person that is in that state of fear of opening up and being authentic with themselves, they see that, and that can inspire them and encourage them and make them realize like, wow, I'm not the only one that's going through this particular situation.
So I think it's a program. As you were saying that, what came into my mind was the lack of vulnerability, the lack of openness, I think is something that's and the connection to God is something that's been deeply instilled in all of our psyches, that's been instilled inside of our DNA, inside of our ancestors, that by being vulnerable, you're allowing your true self to be exposed. Where when you look at the majority of our reality, of our society, it's all fake. Everything is fake.
Inauthentic.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you're going against the grain, right? You going against what is being exposed to us on the cell phones and social media, etc., you already feel like an outsider. You already feel like you're not going to be accepted.
Yeah.
So you are bringing an initial fear into yourself before you even stepped out to be vulnerable. So it's a program. It's something that is preventing us from being our true God-given power, divine right of who we're supposed to be. So it's being prevented because if we were living that way and truly living that way, all of the things that we see around us wouldn't be taking place.
Yeah.
So to prevent us from being that way, all of the things that are taking place because of that.
Yeah.
So us being able to say, fuck that, that is not the way that God would want us to be living, is giving us the ability to stand up for what he wants us to be doing, is going against the grain, is going against the wide road. You want to go the narrow road.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you transverse against that narrow road, you're going to be pushed, you're going to be metaphorically stabbed at, and wounds are going to be opened inside yourself, because it's these traumas of either this life, ancestrally, and then you can go into past lives, you can go into past life aspects of where these wounds are now being opened because you're trying to live your authentic self.
Yeah.
So as it gets narrower and narrower, these things are going to be attacking you. This evilness that's out there is going to be trying to attack you. And you have to be prepared to know that this evil is going to be here, that this evil does not want you to be on the narrow path. The evil wants you on that wide path so that you aren't going against the grain. You're not trying to walk with God. So when we face these times of trying to be authentic, you have to have that shit in the back of your head knowing that this evil that's out there, and it's 100% out there, that this evil is trying to take you away from that narrow path.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's two things in my mind that I actually want to touch on. So one of which I kind of want to like go into what's kind of just been going on in our lives.
Yeah.
The past 8 weeks.
There you go.
8 weeks. And then I want to transition into giving our interpretation of God, and just talking about just God in general.
Okay.
You know, and I think that's important because I also personally think it's going to help me because I've had certain questions that have been weighing on me, and I haven't had the answer. So I think just diving into it and kind of reflecting and analyzing will not only make things clear to myself, but could make things clear to anyone who's listening.
I agree.
So, past 8 weeks, what have you been up
to? Moved into a camper, moved on to a person's land to work at the gym that we're both at currently now, which is absolutely wonderful that I had the ability to even go out there. Really learning to give back to myself, I think is a big one that I've been moving through within these last 8 weeks, because I am a person who just wants to constantly give, and I'm actually learning. I'm learning into the Chinese philosophy of yin and yang. So prior to the 5 elements of working with like the acupuncture meridians, there's another. I want to say it's our spleen. It could be your spleen. That if you're over giving, you're actually depleting yourself and you're not nourishing yourself. And it's a thing that a lot of people do, is that we overgive, and we're not actually taking care of what needs to be done spiritually, physically, and mentally for our own selves, because we're trying to give to others. So since I've been on the land up there, I've really stepped back, and I've really wanted to take care of myself and give back to myself. But I also am doing it in a selfless way, and I know why I'm doing it. I'm doing it to heal aspects of myself that I have not healed yet, because I didn't give myself this space to give back to myself.
Yeah.
And now that I'm giving myself back, this selfless act that I'm doing is eventually going to be able to give to an immense amount of more people, where I wouldn't have been able to do this in the past, because I wasn't healing these parts of my wounded self of not truly living the way I knew I needed to live. So yeah, that's been a big one that I've really been focused on in the past 8 weeks. And then I think we said it either in a podcast, or I know I've said it to you, where I was just like, there's going to be a big move coming in November. And I didn't know what that move was entailing and what it was going to be. I didn't know if it was me myself moving somewhere, or something in the more global climate of things, or just in general, like if something was going to be taking place in November, which individually to the collective, something could still be taking place. But I'm moving out to Kentucky end of November, beginning of December, to a land that's with an old elderly woman. She's homesteading out there, and she's looking for my hands to come out there and help her build things. And it's where I'd want to be anyway. I want to be completely removed from society again, and really be out in nature, out in wilderness, and really connecting back with God in a much deeper way than I know I can. Yeah. I think, I mean, that's kind of like the gist of where I've been the past 8 weeks. But from an introspective look, it's more so doing that, giving back to myself.
And where you are right now, would you say that you're in a good space?
In what sense?
Just headspace.
In and out. There's times when it's very beautiful inside the mind, and there isn't a overwhelming sensation of just impure thoughts. But then there is times where there's impure thoughts, and I have to really objectively look at it. But it's also a great lesson too, because it's when I know these impure thoughts are coming in, I know they're not my thoughts. Like, I know that it's not me, that it's emotional boundary within the settings that I'm either in the land itself, it could be the people that are there, it could be the land itself, could be previous owners of the land. So there's so many different dynamics. It's not just like it's just the people on the land. It's just like, no, it could be past people that were on this land. It could be the actual land itself, the energetic imprint of this land. But from listening to these impure thoughts, it's allowing me to really make more declarations to the divine. And really, this is something else I've been working on, is really speaking to the divine that much more. So angels, ancestors, guides, God, really, really speaking outwardly. And an analogy I've really been using lately is, if you wanted to call me, you'd have to pick up your phone, go to your contacts, click my name, and then press send, right? You have to go through all of those motions just to go and talk. That's the same shit that we have to do to the divine. We have to outwardly speak to them. If we do not outwardly speak to them and convey the message to them that we're looking for their help to clear away impure thoughts, to clear away tensions within ourselves, to clear away anxieties, depressions, overthinkings, etc., all of the things that we know that we are truly not meant to be. But if we do not speak out to them, why are they going to relay back to us? If you don't pick up your phone to call me, I'm not going to pick up my phone to answer. It's not going to be there. They're always with us. They're always around us.
Yeah.
But if we do not do the actions of actually reaching out to them, why would they come back and help? They want to help. They want to supply the help, but they're not going to come back and supply the help if we don't reach out to them.
Yeah.
So that's something I've been really working on too, is really diving deep into speaking. Like on my hour and a half walks with my dog, like I'm not really listening to anything. I'm either speaking outwardly to the divine, to whoever I'm speaking to, or I'm listening to nature, into the stillness, and allowing whatever the expressions of God that's trying to come into me. I'm just allowing those expressions to filter in, and I'm just listening. Yeah.
This is why it's so important to experience life on your own time, because you come to you experience these revelations where you wouldn't have if you hadn't taken the time to truly look within and reflect. And that's why it's important, right? Like life just happens, and it's about how you handle those experiences and how you navigate your way through those obstacles and experiences. Because when life happens, you can either do two things: you can run away and find yourself in this endless cycle, or you can face it and overcome it. And then when you do overcome it, you have so much wisdom and have so many more stories to share with other people. I think within the past 8 weeks, I've kind of been in this state where so many aspects of life is just being thrown at me, and it almost feels like there's this tornado running through my head at all times. And it never feels like my mind is completely clear. I can maybe think of one day where it's almost like a roller coaster, right? Like you have a day where you're really, really high, full of great energy, full of positivity, but then you have 10 days in a row where you're just fucking down, and you're trying to experience that high again. And it makes me think about this analogy that Christ gave, and he was saying that if you stay connected to me, I'm the vine, you're the branch, and God is the vine keeper, right? He's pouring into the vine, he's pouring into the tree, for instance. He's pouring into the tree, he's providing the energy, he's providing the rain, he's providing the sunlight, all of those things. And you are the branch that is connected to that vine, right? And sometimes I think about that analogy and I'm like, man, think about life where you're connected to that vine, and all of the things that are already clean within you, God prunes it, and all of the things that don't suit you, all of the things that don't bear any good fruit, he cuts off and throws it into the fire. And sometimes I think about, like, imagine life like that, where you're never really experiencing those negative thoughts, and it's just positive and you're full of joy every single day. And I think when you're living in the world, and when you can get caught up in fleshly things and the things that the world provides, you're never going to experience that. And we've touched on this plenty of times before, the difference between happiness and joy. Happiness is circumstantial. Joy is forever. No one can strip that away from you. Whether you're experiencing trial and tribulation, you still are filled with joy. And I think that's a beautiful thing, but I haven't experienced that. And I think old me before finding God would definitely have this victim mindset and think that, oh, all these bad things are happening. But I take responsibility and accountability, and I can acknowledge and say that it's my fault. Because there's times where I know the last resort, and it shouldn't be the last resort. It should always be the first resort, is going to God for everything. And sometimes, for some odd reason, you can find yourself in a position where you shy away from that, and you just go the opposite direction, and you lean on your own understanding of things, and you kind of go down this path where, if you trust in your own thoughts, it typically leads you down this path of destruction. And that has been me lately, because I've been like overwhelmed with finances, and overwhelmed with, my next move in regards to like career, and like overwhelmed with, should I be valuing these things? Should I really be heavily focused on these things? Because it always feels like when I put so much focus into those things, it almost feels like I'm worshiping it in a way, and idolizing it. And I hate that feeling. But at the same time, it's like, I need those things in order to set me free from the stronghold that I'm currently in.
Right.
And unfortunately, we live in a world where you need money to sustain yourself. You need money to be free. You need money to not be reliant on anyone else. You want to soar and fly like an eagle. Unfortunately, you have to have money in this economy to do so. And I think that has been weighing me down. And this is also another thing. And this is this is something that I really want to touch on, especially for people that are listening. Being a child of God and having that wisdom and having some of that knowledge, it's so difficult, because when you're hit with negativity and you're just this positive, bubbly, personable person, it's very difficult to sustain that positivity, right? So for instance, I'll give you an example. There's one person that can really evoke angry emotions within me, whether she watches this or not, but this is just me being my authentic self. This is my mother. You one person on this planet that can really evoke anger, true anger within me. And this actually happened the other day. I was at school, and she told me that she was getting off of work to pick me up. Well, she asked me if I needed a ride. And I told her, yeah, I actually do. And it was like 2 o'clock, and she was like, okay, I'm getting off work in like a couple minutes. I'm gonna come and pick you up. I was just like, okay, fine. So she comes, and she parks on the other side of campus. And before she even came, I shared my location with her, and I told her where I was, so you can like come and locate me better. So she saw my location, she saw where she parked, and it was like walking distance, maybe 10 minutes away from each other. If she just drove to me, obviously it would be easy, So I shared my location. I texted her. I was just like, oh, like, you're on the other side of campus. It would be easier for you to just drive over. I know you have somewhere to be, but like, it would take you 10, 15 seconds to just drive over. And she was just like, nope. Like, I have somewhere to be at 4 o'clock. It's 2 o'clock. She's like, I have somewhere to be at 4 o'clock. Either you walk over or I'm leaving. And then I say to myself, it's going to be longer for me to walk over than for you to just drive 20 seconds. If you have somewhere to be, it would be easier for you to just drive. She told me she's not driving all over the place. I said, okay. She was just like, I'm leaving. So I'm like, okay. I don't respond. I'm just like, okay. And I end up ordering a Lyft. I was so angry in that moment, to the point where I was like, if someone said something to me, I would have exploded on them. Because it's just like the amount of negativity and like the amount of like pride and ego there is in that one interaction. It's just like, what's the point? The toughest part about being a child of God is reacting with love in every situation. And that's why like I honor him and I give him so much praise, because it's just like, bro, no one here on earth can play God. No one here on earth can play God. No one. And that is so difficult, because it's like, you got to give him praise for it. We talked about this. Most people, I would say, have cursed God out at some point. Imagine if a person cursed you out. You would be quick to anger. And what does he say? Slow to anger. Quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to anger, because anger doesn't produce the righteousness that he desires. And it's like, anytime someone approaches me with just a negative attitude or whatever it is, naturally, and it's my flesh, but naturally I feel like, who the fuck is this guy? Who's this jackass?
It's actually what happened just the other day. It was Tuesday. I was over here at Stop and Shop, and I was getting into my truck. This guy was unloading his cart into his car and parked right next to me. And you know when you look at people and you can tell like they're eyeing up where they could park their cart and not bring it back to the Jazz, like the actual where it's supposed to be. Yeah. So I turned to him. I was like, hey, like, you know the thing's like right over there, right? And he's just like, yeah, why? And I was just like, I just wanted to let you know, because it looked like you were just going to leave it there, like right next to your car. I was like, even if you weren't, like, I don't like when people do that. I think it's disrespectful. And then he goes, You know what I find disrespectful? When people tell me what to be doing. And I was just like, all right, sounds good, man. And then I drive away. He gets in his car. He drives. And then what I see him doing is taking a picture of my license plate behind me. So I make the left. He makes the left. He's in the other lane. I'm in this lane. So I slow down, and I want him to drive right next to me. So as he's driving right next to me, I just smile and I just wave at him.
Yeah, what is it?
Like, little does he know, like, I don't care, that my license plate's expired. It's from a different state.
Yeah.
I don't even reside in any of the locations that they can find me in. So he was doing all of that, and it was showing me, you're a child.
Yeah.
He was being a baby that I called him out for doing what I know he was. Because if he was going to go do it, it wouldn't have made a difference.
Yeah.
But he reacted in a way knowing that he wasn't going to go do it.
Yeah.
So I was just like, so I was right the entire time. But it's just hysterical that, like,
just smiling and waving.
I just smiled and waved. And I was just like, all right, bud, like,
yeah,
you're an idiot. Like, you are a baby is what you are. Because you got called out.
Yeah. But isn't it hard to do that though? Like, isn't it hard to not like succumb to that negativity?
Why are you taking a picture of my license plate? Like, what do you? Yeah, I mean, it is, but then it's laughter, man. Like, it still happens every now and then. Like, those impure thoughts that come in, like, I get angry, I get upset, and then it's just like, wait, why don't I just laugh?
Yeah.
Like, just laugh at the stupidness. Like, okay, so now the perfect thing is what's happening in, like, the Western North Carolina, Eastern Tennessee, like all the jazz that just happened, right? You have ability to get into a lift. There's people that don't even have homes anymore. There's people that don't even have highways to get to places anymore because they got wiped out. So being able to look at it from a grander scheme of things and just be like, why was I just getting upset? And just laugh. Like, I'm going back to a home as a roof.
Yeah.
I have food inside there. Yes, it's annoying. Not saying it's not annoying. 100%. I get it. It's just like, dude, you could have drove fucking 10 seconds and we would have been a whole different dilemma. Or the dilemma would never have been there. But you decided, and now we have to be able to look at your mother's situation. Like, who knows what happened at work? Like, who knows? Somebody could have set her off.
Yeah.
There's that. Could there be a spirit that's now overtaken her in those moments to then have her react the way that she did, to then have that reaction to then be put into you because of walking in the path of God?
Yep.
To see how now you will react because of the spirit that overtook your mother in those short instances to then come to you.
But see, everything that you said, I absolutely agree with. But this is the difficulty of living in flesh.
Yeah.
Because it is so difficult to look at a situation like that and not be defensive, but look at the situation with grace and love the same way that Christ would, the same way that God would, whomever. It's so difficult to look at it from a grander scale.
Yes.
Because, and I reflected on this the other day, this is what Christ means when he says you have to deny yourself every single day.
Yes.
Denying your flesh every single day. It could be any moment. Denying your flesh doesn't necessarily just mean, oh, like, this really attractive woman is coming on to me, I have to just like say no to her. Like, no, it doesn't just mean that. It means in every circumstance of your life, a small little interaction like that really pisses me off.
Yeah.
That's what it also means, denying myself. Understanding that, okay, you know what, maybe she did have a bad day at work. That doesn't affect me in any way. Okay, you're having a bad day. That's where grace and understanding comes in. I'm not going to allow that to affect my bubble.
Right.
And that is the most difficult thing that I've been experiencing lately in my life. And although I'm much more patient, like it's very hard to get me angry and upset.
Right.
Although my mother's very good at it. I don't react in the way that I used to, but I did catch myself the other day getting snappy. And I don't like that. Because then it sits with me. And again, part of denying your flesh, once you deny your flesh, and let's just say in a moment like you experienced, when that guy's driving by and you smile and wave at him, I can't speak for you, but I can only imagine how that anger probably in that moment is just released. It's released because that emotion is provoking you to react in a way that is angry and upset. But if you're counteracting that with something, with positivity, with a smile, with a wave, naturally your body's just like, what the fuck is this guy doing? Like, releases. And I know we spoke about the importance of like emotional release. And I was asking God, I was just like, okay, well, when we experience anger, why don't we just release that anger in that moment? But then I was just like, if everyone released their anger in any moment given, all hell breaks loose.
Yes and no. So what I saw, I'm gonna go back to another thing too right after I say this. So anger is boiling water. Without the boiling water, you don't have tea.
No.
So anger can be diffused into something good, like boiling water, or that boiling water can spill over and burn the shit out of you, which is then it's not good. That's not releasing the anger in a positive way.
Okay, I can see that. You can utilize energy in any given way.
Correct.
So anger, and yes, you're right. Because even heartbreak, for instance, you can either sit there and allow it to torment you, or you can utilize and transfer that energy into doing something productive.
Correct.
All of it is still energy at the end of the day that God is providing you in that situation. So I get it. That makes sense.
It's just learning how to use the energy. How do you use the energy in a constructive way? Whatever the emotional energy is, how do you use it in a constructive way? And the way to figure it out is through experiences, right? So it's not just going to be like, oh, I figured it out right then and there. No, it could take 4, 5, 6, 12, 25 times.
Yeah.
There is no destined understanding to a situation for you to know.
Yep.
It could take hundreds of times for you to be like, why am I still doing this?
Yeah.
Why am I still reacting the same way to the same emotional energy?
Absolutely.
But then it does come. And then when it does come, it's just like, whoa, it wipes away literally every single previous experience until you flip the switch. It all gets wiped away.
Absolutely.
It's all gone. It's not there anymore. It's not a part of you anymore because you're not repeating the cycles of what that emotional energy is.
Yeah.
When you were talking about anger, what I saw was we all become hyper focused, right? When anger comes, it's almost like our vision was like this, and now it becomes like this.
Yeah.
So it's like a microscope. So when we get anger, we zoom in at 60x.
And all you see is red.
Right. So if we're able to use that analogy when we start to feel anger, so it's almost like when you think of anger, think of the microscope. So anger, microscope, anger, microscope. So as soon as anger comes and it's at this 60x, you're like, oh, fuck, I'm at 60x. Let me pull back to 20x. Let me pull back to 10x. Let me get out of the microscope. So instead of being hyper focused, you're now able to pull back and you're able to be like, oh, fuck, maybe my mom had a bad fucking day. Oh, shit, maybe something fucking happened and that's why she's twisting shit up like this. Yeah. But if you're in a 60x, you're not able to have those cognitive thoughts of being able to perceive life in that manner. Yeah. But then as you start to realize like, oh shit, anger, I'm in a microscope, and then you pull back, that anger is now being released. You're settling into your central nervous system. You're allowing yourself to not be in a fight or flight, which is in that fucking anger position. You're now going into rest and digest to then be able to perceive and observe more of what that instance was.
For sure. And you know what I've also been doing is like, I'll take a moment and I'll pray. And God loves absolutely everyone here on this planet. Absolutely. I don't care what you do. Yep. He still loves you. He created you.
No matter your belief system, no matter how you view him or her or it or the universe, however, whatever the word is, however you want to perceive the essence of our creation, love.
He is the perfect embodiment of love.
Yes.
He loves you. He doesn't care what you did. He doesn't care how many mistakes you've made. We're all here to learn, and he still loves you at the end of it. And sometimes when I experience that anger that someone evokes out of me, or that I allow to evoke out of me, I look at it from that perspective. God still loves this person. And if you can ask God in any given situation, please, in the most humble way, reveal to me the reasons why you love this individual so I can understand and move in a way that is full of love the same way that you would. Although I'm in that frame of mind where it's 60 where I'm just hyper focused on this one thing that this person did to me.
Mm-hmm.
Allow me to expand my way of thinking
Mm-hmm.
so I can look at this person the same way that you would. And that's something that I've been doing lately. And as soon as I think about that, I'm like, it's an easier way to forgive.
Yeah, and something else that I do on the regular, like when I'm feeling these tensions, I always speak to the divine in a way of I always ask please when I'm making my request. I always ask please because it's respectful. Um, please remove what is no longer serving.
Mm.
Please, because this is what I wanted to go back to before what you're talking about, where it's just like we have these things inside of us that we have to let go of, we have to release because it's not supposed to be a part of us anymore. I always ask the divine for their help to release what is no longer serving me.
Mm.
And I couldn't tell you how many times I have felt that binding of what was not in service that was wrapping me up. And as I make this request, I start to feel it all fall away. Like I could feel myself becoming lighter, not just in my physical body, but also within my soul. Like I feel lighter because I'm asking for this to be released from me because it's not supposed to be in service of my body, my mind, my soul any longer.
Absolutely.
And it's just asking it over and over again. Like,
Mm.
please remove this from me. Please remove what is no longer serving from me. Please remove what is no longer serving from me. Please remove what is no longer serving from me. On repeat, repeat. Even if you have to say it 50 times, who gives a shit?
Mm.
You want something gone because you know it's not supposed to be with you. So if you had to say it 100 times, say it 100 times over.
Absolutely. I think that's a good transition into the next topic in conversation. How do you perceive God? Like, if someone were to ask you right now, and so someone had no understanding of who God is, and they have so many questions, and one of which I can bring up so many because I've also been thinking about this lately. It's sat with me. It's been pissing me off, and I think I know the answer, but I've had people ask me, why does God allow all of the torment that's going on in this life, all of the pain, all of the suffering, all of the war? Why doesn't He intercede? And then when we speak about like divine interventions, why doesn't He intervene in those circumstances? Why is it circumstantial that He decides to? Why is it typically a minuscule situation as compared to like a larger scale problem, if that makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
As, for example, like war or pain or suffering or whatever that is.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, how do you perceive God? If someone had those type of questions, how would you answer that?
The pureness of heart. Your heart feels so wide open when you perceive God. It's you don't think. You don't you don't overthink anything. You're coming from a point of allowing your heart to be so open that you don't even like right now, like I'm thinking about the pureness of heart. Like I don't even feel like in my chest. Like I don't even have a chest on me right now. Like I don't even feel my body. Like I just feel this pureness that's coming out of my heart. That is my direct connection to God. Like I feel so open to His presence that it's filtering through my heart.
Mm.
Um, and it's once I start to overthink and try to perceive in a way that's away from my heart, I lose a connection to Him.
Mm.
Where when I sit within my heart and I allow my heart to just be, it's bliss. Like it's such a comforting feeling.
Mm.
Knowing that when you're living within your heart, you don't have to do anything. Like you can just be. To the pains and the miseries and all of that that's taking place, we all signed up for it.
Yeah.
No matter how minuscule or how grand it is, we all signed up for it.
Mm.
So being able to look what just happened, right? Do I hate that it happened? Because then you start looking at the sinister shit to why it happened, where there's reasonings behind it and why they geoengineered this storm to take place where it took place. Like I firmly believe, and I don't give a fuck if anything thinks me crazy, but I don't think any of our storms that we've had in the last really 2 decades are natural. I think it's all geoengineered. I think it's all manipulated through the evilness that's here. So all of the hurricanes, all of the tornadoes, all of the weird hailstorms, everything. I think it's all geoengineered. I don't think we're living in a natural world anymore. I think it's all fake. I think it's all manipulated to do sinister things. So when you actually start researching into why they hyper focused into I think it's like, I forgot the name of the town in North Carolina. It's like Asheville or some shit like that. It's because it's the largest mining area for superconducting. So the minerals I think it's more so the crystals that are mined out of that specific area is for like our cell phones, our computers, etc., that are using these mini conductors to be able to fire these oscillating fields. And then what happened over in Taiwan, which is where the superconductors are. They just had a hurricane right after we had a hurricane in that exact spot where everything got flooded out. So now Taiwan stopped all of their semiconducting. And then you have on the eastern seaboard, there is no more fucking transportation of goods coming into the eastern seaboard. You tell me all of that has no relation to each other? Bullshit. Bullshit. So and that goes back into why I'm saying it's all geoengineered, where I don't think any of these storms are real anymore.
Yeah.
Like I don't think any of them are real. It's all, and then you look at the skies and you see all the chemtrails and all of the things running through it, and it's just like, why are they still running through the sky? Why is all of this taking place? Then you go into why is God allowing for this? That goes also into why I said we all signed up for it. We all signed up for every single thing that takes place upon this planet. No matter if we are part of the destruction and the devastation that's happening in our city, our towns, or if it's on the opposite side of the world, we all signed up for everything that's taking place right now. So when we can sit inside of that type of mentality, it gives us the ability to be at peace, which is what they don't want us to be. The ones that are geoengineering all this stuff, the ones that are trying to take us away from peace, is what they want us to be, is away from peace. So when we can understand that everything that is taking place is in divine guidance, you don't feel anger anymore. You don't feel, why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to them? Why is all this? Every single one of us signed up for exactly what's taking place in every single moment. So when we can take on that notion, we no longer have this hatred for the evil. We know that it's happening for a reason because God is wanting it to take place. So then when you go back into the pureness of your heart, you no longer feel this agitation inside yourself because you're allowing yourself to be in this pure state of love and this pure state of peace, knowing that God is in total control of all of this. He's allowing the geoengineering to take place. He's allowing all of these weather manipulations to take place. And why is he allowing it to take place? To cleanse. He's cleansing the impurities. He's cleansing all of the viruses that are here. Not just on that's a whole nother, I don't think viruses are real either. I've been listening to this other fucking doctor that's really blowing my mind up. Dr. Cohen. I forgot his first name. But he goes really in depth with it, and he makes solid proof. And the same thing, the heart is not a pump; it's a fucking vortex, which is a whole other thing within itself. But I don't know enough information onto it to really dive into it and talk about it. But there's a lot of topics on the side that, what the fuck, like everything that we've been told is not true.
Yeah.
So as I backtrack, everything that's taking place is coming from a pure place. No matter how ugly it is, no matter how beautiful it is, it's all coming from a pure place. And when we can sit inside of our hearts, which is directly connected to God, we're allowing ourselves to see the pureness in all of the devastation and all of the rebuilding, because it's all taking place through the hand of God.
I thought about this. I really thought about this, and I started to realize that most of So before I even say anything, lean not on your own understanding and trust in God with all of your heart. And as difficult as that is to do at times, I think once we come to the realization that we are human and we have such a limited understanding of this entire world, this entire universe, the first step is humbling yourself and recognizing and understanding that we can't understand everything. We can't know everything. Our brains are so tiny, and not even just our brains, but who we are as individuals. If you take an airplane right now and you look down, bro, everyone looks like ants. You can't even see people because you're that high up in the air. All you see is the landscape of the world. So in essence, we are tiny compared to everything else in this world, which then means that you can't understand everything, you can't know everything.
No.
So I think when you come to that state where you kind of come to that realization, I think that's the first step to understanding God and knowing who He is. And I know it's unfortunate. I know a lot of people, especially that are filled with a lot of hurt and pain and anger in regards to why there's so much pain and suffering that's happening in this world. I know there's a lot of people, including myself at some point. I mean, sometimes I still do experience that anger, like, man, why is this happening? Right? Because I have my mind so set on positivity, helping people when I can, serving other people when I can, that seeing other people in pain, even seeing myself in pain, like, it's frustrating. It's annoying because then I then ask myself, like, God, if you really do love us, why do we have to experience that? Right? Like all of the pain and suffering and all the anguish that people are experiencing. So I understand, but when you separate yourself and look at it from a broader scale, as I said earlier in the podcast, no one here can play God. No one here can play God. And it almost reminds me of the book of Job. At the end, he's talking to Job, and he's just like, do you want to switch positions? Like, you're over here criticizing me. Would you like to fulfill this position that I have to fulfill every single day? I have to make sure that it rains when it rains. I have to make sure that the sun comes up when it comes up. I have to make sure that everything here in the world is like, I have to make sure that I'm producing every single day. No human can do that, right? So like, and once you also understand that there's duality to life and that God has thankfully given us free will to do absolutely anything that we want to do, that's a gift. And we decide what we're going to do with that free will. So you can be a bystander and you can look at these situations, war and all of these things, and look at it from a sense of like, why is this happening? But what are you also doing to ensure that this doesn't happen? You know what I mean? You have that free will. You can either choose to do great things in this world, or you can choose to do evil things. God has given us that free will. And then I'd also like to challenge people and think, why is it that we naturally, without even being taught, why is it that we naturally know what good is and what evil is? Why do we naturally know that without having to be taught? It's what's placed on our soul. We naturally know. Like, there's certain things that you don't have to teach a baby, and he grows up or she grows up and he or she naturally knows like what to do, what not to do.
That's the pureness of the heart.
It's the pureness.
That's when we can go back to the pureness of the heart. Like a child, a baby, a toddler that is hanging out in a park, like, it sees no color. It doesn't know any difference. It just sees, well, let's go play. Because it's still working from the pureness of the heart. It's the environments that the child, the toddler, then into the adolescence and etc. on, that's when the pureness gets removed.
I think that's a good example. That's a great example, actually. Because I think that within itself is an indication that God is real. Because when any child that comes into this world is pure-hearted.
Yes.
It's the world that corrupts that child.
Yes.
But every child that comes here is pure-hearted. That each child is a pure representation of who God actually is.
Yes.
But unfortunately, us as humans, we end up corrupting that kid.
Yes.
And unfortunately, those traumas that they have to experience takes that pureness away from them. And unfortunately, you have to find yourself in a position where you find God.
Is it taken away though? It's not.
It's not fully taken away.
No, because it's still it's a seed, right? So when the child is born, it's a full out tree, right? And then as the child grows, that tree may get removed. But even when the tree is removed, there's a seed that's still sitting inside that heart. So any point in life, no matter what age, that seed can grow. It's on you to go back to that seed to then flourish back into the tree
Yeah,
that you were born with.
absolutely. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. It's
I think that's powerful.
yeah, it's that's that's something that I've been really like working with on the daily is the brain development, right? So a child's brain development goes through different stages through life. And I'm working more towards, obviously I'm a grown up, but I'm taking on the mentality of a like 4 to 8 year old. So I want to perceive the world from a child's eye of 4 to 8 years old.
Mm.
So in those stages of brain development, you're just in constant observation. You're constantly observing, constantly taking in these receptions, and instilling them into your receptors of the self. And you're just seeing the world in this joyful way.
Yeah.
Because that's also how I want to see the world, is in a joyful way.
Yep.
So I'm taking the mindset of a 4 to 8 year old and taking it and applying it to a joyful point of view.
Yep.
So every single thing, even if I'm working through these impure thoughts, I'm working at it from a 4 to 8 year old standpoint so that I can actually move through it faster instead of sitting inside of it, dwelling inside of it. What happens to a 4 to 8 year old? Like they may bump their toe and then 5 minutes later they're back outside playing.
Yeah.
So the impure thoughts could be with me for 2 hours and then I'm back into that joyful state again because I'm using the mindset of that 4 to 8 year old to move through life.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what I wanted to go into. You were talking about how we don't have all the answers, right?
Yeah.
Individually, we don't have all the answers, but collectively, we can find the answers. So, dropping the ego, thinking that you know all, will lead you into finding people that have the solutions for what you're looking for. That's why we're collective. That's why we are a human race. That's why we are here together.
Yep.
So that when we can actually collectively come together and realize this scientist, this economic person, this holistic person, this personal trainer, this fucking whatever, all of us have different points of seeing God, but we can all commune together to then collectively build something together.
Absolutely, yeah.
And that's how we're able to really, that's what I think the Tower of Babel was about, was just being able to build something because they were forming together. And the evilness was just like, oh shit, these motherfuckers figured it out. Like if you come together, you solve it.
Yeah.
And that's why it's been division across the board, which is where once we realize like, oh, they wanted us to be divided. They put division inside of us to not actually form back together again to totally change this entire scenario that we've been inside of for thousands of years.
Absolutely. Dropping that ego.
Yes.
Dropping that ego and being completely humble. Releasing all of the knowledge that you have. So funny. I think did I tell you this? Maybe I did. My professor for the training course, she said to all of us, she said, come into this course releasing all the knowledge that you have. Come into it releasing all the knowledge that you have and be open to absorbing the new information that will be presented. Because there were a few things that was taught and it made you question like that's not how it's supposed to be, right? But that's based off of my own understanding of things, right? So it's the same thing with life, and you hit it on the nail. It's like you have to release all the information that you know, allow yourself to be humble and absorb new information. No server is greater than his master, not one.
And no master is greater than the server. All the same.
Yep.
It's all the same. It's right. It's like we're all meant to be washing each other's feet.
Yep. That's why we're here.
It's not one foot is meant to be washed. No, all feet are meant to be washed together. And when we can actually wash our feet together, we see the impurities of what's been placed inside of us in a wrongful way start to fall away.
Yep. And it kind of brings me back to what we were kind of just discussing about how people are programmed not to open up and be vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
That is a reflection on our society and who we are as individuals, not being able to see those impurities and not judge them, right? Because we're so quick to judge things, and we're so quick to look at things from like, oh my God, that's terrible, or whatever it is. But when you switch your perspective and you look at things from a loving stance, as corny as that sounds, it's the same exact way that God would do it.
Mm-hmm.
When you present your insecurities or you present the things that you're struggling with to God, he doesn't sit there and judge you. No, he still embraces you. He pulls you toward him, and he shows you unconditional love. And if humans can incorporate that, learn that, and incorporate that into their daily interactions, I guarantee life would be so much better.
Yes. Yep.
Because people are going to obviously open up and feel a little bit more comfortable to showcase who they actually are.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how you learn.
But there's people that are scared to show who they really are.
Yes.
Because they haven't faced their wounds. They haven't faced their own traumas. They've been running from it. So by running from it, they can fake their way through it.
Yeah. Or maybe they have, and they've been judged for it before.
There's that, and that's the whole point of just like, not everybody is going to go with us the long distance, right? Do we wish for everybody to go the long distance? Fuck yes.
Yeah.
I want everybody to go. But some people just are not willing to get over a certain hurdle. People aren't willing to get past a certain point. And that's on their own timing.
Yeah.
But if we can love them from a distance and still appreciate them from a distance, we're still able to bring them with us, even though they're not physically with us.
Yeah.
That's the point of the spirit. That's the point of the soul, is to know that it's all quantumly connected. Everything is connected. Everything.
Yeah.
No matter what it is. No matter how far nor how small. It's all connected. From the seen to the unseen. From the life to the afterlife. It's all connected. And when we can find ourselves in this position of knowing that it's all connected, we're able to release things, people, environments from our life with grace.
Yeah.
Because we know that no matter how far we go, the releasing of what we had to let go of is still with us.
Yeah, absolutely.
That it's always with us.
Yep.
And when we can find that grace inside of that releasing of what no longer is meant to be with us, we find ourselves in this place of just gratitude. It's just thank you for every single thing that has ever been a part of my life.
Yeah.
And that what was a part of my life is still with me, but I'm seeing it from a different viewpoint because of what has transpired.
Yeah. And on that note, I think I have to end.
You gotta poop?
No, I don't have to poop, but I have to wake up at 5 a.m.
Ooh.
So I wanted to get a quick workout in and then get something to eat.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for listening. This is another episode. I think this is going to be episode...
Zero idea.
No idea.
Zero idea.
But we're back, and I'm not going to promise that we're going to release once a week, but what I will say is that this was very well needed. And I think we touched on a lot of good topics and conversations today. And I think there's still so much more to speak about, and unfortunately, have to cut it short. But we will be back. And hopefully you guys don't have to wait as long as you did before. But regardless, I appreciate you guys. We love you guys. And the people that are actually listening and tuning in and keeping up with the content, truly from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Thank you. If we can inspire anyone, that is the goal.
Yep. We appreciate you.
And with that being said, peace.
And chicken grease.